The Warriors are in a tough spot. Steph Curry is out with a back injury, and the team looks lost without him. Even when he's on the court, Golden State still seems to be missing one more player who can step up and score. Right now, everything depends on Steph, and that's a risky way to head into the playoffs. Jimmy Butler has done what he can, but he's not enough to carry the offense alone. Jonathan Kuminga has shown flashes, but he's not consistent from the outside. That allows defenses to ignore him on the perimeter and focus all their energy on stopping Steph. When teams double Steph and force others to make plays, the offense gets stuck. Players like Draymond Green, Gary Payton II, and Brandon Podziemski are solid defenders, but none of them are reliable shooters. That's a big problem. If they can't hit open shots, defenses will just keep loading up on Curry and daring the rest of the team to beat them. It puts the whole system under pressure and makes scoring a struggle. There's already talk about a possible trade with Denver in the offseason. Golden State has depth, but no clear third option, while Denver is top-heavy with a weak bench. That could work long-term, but for now, the Warriors have to figure it out with the players they have. If nobody steps up, it's going to be a short playoff run. For true basketball fans, this channel feels like home. Hit subscribe and never miss the real story behind the game. The Milwaukee Bucks have one big issue heading into the playoffs. They struggle to score when it matters most. Their defense has been solid, especially late in games, but that doesn't mean much when the offense can't keep up. In clutch moments, they've had one of the worst offensive ratings in the league, which is holding them back from being a true title threat. The situation got worse when news broke that Damian Lillard is out with blood clots in his calf. That's a serious health concern and a big blow for Milwaukee. Without Dame, the scoring load now falls completely on Giannis. And with Bobby Portis suspended and Jericho Sims also sidelined, the Bucks are running thin. Giannis has looked more explosive lately, but he can't do it all by himself. Another problem is how they're using their new players. Kyle Kuzma is being stuck in the corner as a spot-up shooter, but that's not where he shines. He's better when cutting to the basket or attacking off the dribble. If the Bucks want to improve their offense, they need to use him in ways that play to his strengths, especially with Dame unavailable for now. The Bucks have a strong defensive identity, but their offense feels disjointed and inconsistent. If Dame comes back healthy before the playoffs, it gives them a better chance. But even with him, they need to find rhythm and better chemistry on offense. Right now, defense alone won't be enough to carry them through a long playoff run. The Lakers have improved a lot on defense lately, especially in half-court situations, but there's one area they still haven't figured out: stopping fast breaks. When teams push the ball quickly up the court, the Lakers often can't keep up. That weakness has cost them in games against younger and faster teams, and it could hurt them badly in the playoffs. One big reason for this issue is speed. LeBron James is still a smart and strong player, but he's not as quick as he used to be. Luka Doncic also isn't known for his speed. When both are on the floor, it's hard to match the pace of teams like the Thunder or Nuggets, who love to run in transition. That lack of quickness has been exposed over and over again. The stats tell the same story. The Lakers are near the bottom of the league in opponent fast break points. That means they're giving up easy buckets before their defense even has a chance to set up. And in the playoffs, where every possession matters, giving up free points like that can flip a close game in seconds. To go far this postseason, the Lakers need to fix this. Their half-court defense and offense are good enough to compete, but if they can't slow teams down in transition, they'll be in trouble. It's the one weakness that teams are going to keep going after, and so far, the Lakers haven't shown they can stop it. The Boston Celtics are one of the top teams in the league, but even they have something to worry about heading into the playoffs. Their three-point shooting isn't as sharp as it used to be. Last season, they were one of the best shooting teams from deep. This year, they're still taking a lot of threes, but they're not hitting them at the same rate. A small drop in shooting percentage might not sound like a big deal, but in the playoffs, every point matters. When role players start missing open looks, defenses shift their focus to the stars. That's exactly what could happen to Jason Tatum if the rest of the team doesn't knock down shots. Defenders will crowd him and dare others to make them pay. Some of Boston's key players have cooled off from behind the arc. Drew Holiday's numbers have dropped a lot compared to last year, especially from the corners. Jaylen Brown and Al Horford are also hitting fewer threes than they did last season. These are the guys who will be on the floor in crunch time, so they have to be more reliable. If those shots don't fall, it could open the door for opponents to play tighter defense and slow Boston down. The Celtics are still dangerous, but if the threes don't drop in the postseason, their path to a title will get a lot harder. Teams will be ready to take advantage of that dip in efficiency. The Detroit Pistons have made real progress lately, especially on defense. But when the game slows down and they need someone to create offense, they run into trouble. Cade Cunningham is doing everything he can, but he can't carry the scoring load by himself every night. When he sits or gets double teamed, the offense often stalls. With Jaden Ivey out, the Pistons have been relying on Malik Beasley as a secondary scorer. He's been shooting well from three, but asking him to be the second option in high-pressure playoff moments is a big ask. He's better as a catch-and-shoot guy, not someone who breaks down defenses. Tobias Harris is also in the mix, but he's never been a strong shot creator under pressure. Spacing is another issue. Harris is shooting below average from deep this season, and that makes it easier for defenses to pack the paint and focus on Cade. Even if the Pistons play fast and score in transition, playoff games are slower and more physical. That's where their lack of shot creation could really hurt them. Detroit's defense and energy are good enough to win games, and Cade is playing at an all-star level, but if nobody else can step up on offense, they'll have a hard time keeping up in a 7-game series. They've got potential, but without more scoring options, they're going to hit a wall. The Memphis Grizzlies started the season strong on defense, but lately, that strength has turned into a weakness. Over the last few weeks, their defensive numbers have taken a big hit, and they're now giving up way more points than before. That kind of drop-off is a red flag, especially with the playoffs coming up fast. A big part of the problem has been turnovers. Memphis has been careless with the ball, and it's costing them. When you give the ball away that much, it leads to fast breaks and easy points for the other team. Even a good defense can't recover when it's constantly chasing down fast break plays caused by sloppy offense. Ja Morant's health has played a role in all of this. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries, and when he's not on the floor, the team has to lean on less experienced ball handlers. That's led to more mistakes and made it harder for them to stay organized on both ends of the floor. Even when Ja does play, his shoulder has clearly been bothering him. To get back on track, the Grizzlies need to protect the ball and get their defense back to where it was early in the season. They can't afford to keep giving up free points, and with the postseason around the corner, they'll need to lock in fast, because once the playoffs start, there's no room for sloppy play. And the Denver Nuggets are still one of the top teams, but their defense has fallen off badly in recent weeks. Over the last stretch of games, they've been near the bottom of the league in defensive rating. That's not what you expect from a team trying to repeat as champions. Giving up over 120 points a night won't cut it in the playoffs. Last season, they got away with being average on defense in the regular season because they turned it up in the postseason. But banking on that switch again is risky, especially when their energy on defense just doesn't look the same. If they were even close to middle of the pack right now, it might be less of a concern, but sitting this low is a real warning sign. Another issue is depth. Denver has a great starting lineup, but once you get past the first 5, things drop off fast. They don't have the kind of bench that can hold a lead or shift momentum. That puts more pressure on Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to carry the load, and that's dangerous over a long playoff run. If the Nuggets want to go deep again, the defense has to improve, and fast. They can't expect to just flip the switch again and hope it works out. Right now, they look beatable, and other teams are going to test that weak defense every chance they get. The Knicks have had a solid season, but their defense in pick-and-roll situations has become a major problem. When opposing teams run screens and force switches, New York often ends up with mismatches that lead to easy buckets. This has happened again and again, especially against top-tier offenses. Karl Anthony Towns has been the main target. When he's playing center, teams go right at him in pick-and-roll plays. Star guards and wings like Jason Tatum or Donovan Mitchell have taken full advantage, either pulling up for open shots or driving straight to the rim. The Knicks haven't found a good way to hide this weakness. Another thing hurting them is fatigue. Their starters are logging heavy minutes, and the bench hasn't provided enough support. That kind of wear and tear adds up, especially late in the season. Even though the Knicks brought in strong wing defenders like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, the defense still hasn't clicked the way it should. If New York wants to avoid another early playoff exit, they have to adjust their coverages and protect Towns better. Playing Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5 might help, but whatever the solution is, they need to find it soon. Teams are already taking advantage of this flaw, and in the playoffs, it only gets harder. The Houston Rockets have built a strong identity on defense. They've been one of the best defensive teams all season, and they crash the boards better than almost anyone. But when the game is tight in the final minutes, their offense just doesn't hold up. That's a big issue with playoff level pressure on the horizon, and during close games, their scoring takes a noticeable dip. They go from being a decent offensive team to one that struggles to get good looks or finish plays. The defense keeps them in games, but they don't have that one go-to scorer who can take over late. In the playoffs, when every possession matters, that becomes a serious concern. A big part of their success this year has come from outworking other teams, especially on the offensive glass. But in the playoffs, that advantage shrinks. Everyone plays harder, and boxing out becomes tighter. So Houston can't count on hustle alone to get extra possessions and mask their shot creation issues. If they want to survive in a playoff atmosphere, someone needs to step up and deliver on offense in the clutch. Rebounding and defense will always keep them close, but without reliable late-game scoring, they'll find it hard to finish strong when it really counts. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a well-rounded team, but their biggest concern is that they don't have the best player on the court in most playoff matchups. Donovan Mitchell is a great scorer and a proven all-star, but when it comes to playoff takeovers, he hasn't shown he can outshine guys like Giannis or Tatum. That could be a problem when the games really matter. In playoff basketball, stars make the difference. We've seen it year after year. When games get tight, the team with the best player usually wins. Mitchell has put up solid numbers, but he hasn't yet had that moment where he completely takes over a series. That next step is what Cleveland needs from him. The rest of the team has been doing its job. Their role players know their roles, and the chemistry has looked strong. But come playoff time, teams will force the star to carry the load. If Mitchell can't rise to that challenge, it could limit how far the Cavs can go, no matter how balanced they are. Cleveland doesn't need a total overhaul. They're in good shape overall, but for them to seriously contend, Mitchell has to prove he can match the playoff performances of the league's biggest names. Until he does, the Cavs will always feel like one piece short in a deep playoff run. The Indiana Pacers have made big strides this season, especially on the defensive end. Last year, they were near the bottom of the league in defensive rating. Now they've climbed to the middle of the pack, and that's a big improvement. But when it comes to playoff level defense, they're still not where they need to be. Their aggressive style, pressuring full court and speeding teams up, works well in regular season games. Opponents don't always have time to prepare for it, but in a 7-game series, coaches will find ways to break that pressure. Once teams get used to it, they'll start hunting mismatches, and that's when the Pacers' defense can fall apart. Tyrese Halliburton is key to their offense, but on defense, he's someone opposing teams will target. Stronger teams like Boston will run plays to get him switched onto top scorers and force him to defend in space. That's where the cracks in Indiana's system start to show. Good teams won't miss those chances. The Pacers have a great offense and can keep up with anyone in a shootout, but to make real playoff noise, they'll need more stops when it matters most. If they can't tighten up defensively in crunch time, their playoff push may be exciting, but short. The Timberwolves have looked solid this season, especially on offense. Over the last stretch of games, they've been scoring at a top 10 level, but despite that, there's one big concern heading into the playoffs: Julius Randle's postseason track record. He's had strong regular seasons before, but when the playoffs come, his numbers usually drop. In his past playoff appearances, Randle has struggled with efficiency. He's shot poorly from the field and even worse from deep. That becomes a problem when defenses pack the paint and dare him to shoot. If he's not hitting shots, it clogs up the floor and makes it harder for Anthony Edwards to get to the rim. Spacing is everything in the playoffs, and having two players on the floor who aren't threats from outside makes things harder for everyone else. Randle has been shooting the ball better this season, but the question is whether he can keep that up under pressure. So far, history says he hasn't been able to. Minnesota has a lot of talent and a chance to make noise, but Randle needs to prove he can show up when the lights are brightest. If he doesn't, defenses will adjust quickly, and it'll be hard for the Timberwolves to keep their offense flowing the way it has all year.